Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Momming While Muslim podcast. This is Uzma Joffrey. And Zeba
Assalamu
has
alaikum, everybody. This
coronavirus
is
today.
Ziba Hassan. I know it's so sad. No, I just drank some water, and it totally went down the wrong tube. Like that's the beauty of
Yes.
going live and thinking, "Oh, I'm going to grab some water. I'm going to do this." But no, I don't have
Yes.
corona. At least I hope not. I'm
I know, right? So, Zeba, tell me about your week once you get a breath in.
I'm sorry. No, we have officially moved into, a lot of us have heard that I was in a master bedroom redo, and well, you probably heard some of that construction in the background in some of our podcasting episodes. But yeah, we're officially in the room, and not a moment too soon, since obviously all of us are trapped in the house together. Having that small little space for myself has been a god save. That having been said, no, we actually are enjoying. We're trying to do the best that we can, and we're enjoying the week together. The quarantine together. So I'm not going to complain too much about it. I actually like having my kids with me. Oh my god, excuse
Because
me. At least
you
you
love
guys
your
don't have to worry
children.
about
That's awesome.
catching my corona. I love them. I love them. We're having a good time. But I know it's been a little bit challenging for you because you've been actually on the forefront. And so you've had a cough and kind of worried about having corona. So you want to talk to us about that and what you've been dealing with on the front lines?
Um, well, I mean, thank goodness all of my patients are okay because they live in care communities. We don't call them nursing homes because that's considered kind of an ageist term. So we call them care communities, at least out here in Arizona. And so those facilities are on lockdown. The ones that are doing it correctly are not letting any non-essential visitors in, which means there's no family. There's just doctors, nurses. If a hospice worker needs to come in, they will, on a very limited basis, allow them in. So even myself, I have the opportunity to go whenever I want to. I just need to call and give them a heads up. And at some facilities, my temperature has to be checked. Travel history is checked at the desk before they'll let me in. Well, Wednesday, one of the days that I get up to go and do this, I woke up with a very different cough. It's not an allergy cough. It's deep in my chest. I'm actually wheezing, and I do have, some reactive airway disease, which is kind of akin to asthma. And so I decided I wasn't going to go. No fever, no chills, nothing like that. I haven't traveled, but I made the call to not go expose my patients because that is what social distancing is. You stay away from vulnerable populations, especially, and that we know is going to be our elderly and chronically ill. So I learned how to do telemedicine, which is awesome because now that is the big thing. And now I can offer visits actually to more than just my older patients online, which is really cool. But the goal is, as we were talking about earlier before we started recording, is to keep our contact to a minimum and, just be responsible and not pass it on. So, um, there is that. I am still going out to my renovation, which is literally just me and sometimes one other person working on site. So I just stay clear of them. And we're, maintaining the 6 foot distance because I'm not going to climb up 20-foot ladders to go talk to them. I'm just, supervising my work and a little bit jealous that you started your reno way after me and are already done. And I've been working on it for 2.5 years and I still have no end in sight. So
But if it makes you
alhamdulillah
feel
for you,
better,
and it
I
sucks
we
for me.
actually but if it makes you feel better, we've been working on this renovation for 4.5 years. We just did it piecemeal. So we're finally at our
Whoa.
final stage. I know.
Oh,
So now we're officially done.
yeah.
But the other good news that we have with Mommy Well Muslim, which we were going to make the announcement today, is we added two new team members, and they'll be posted a little bit later. We have Ariana Sahidi. She's going to be our brand ambassador, community director, and we're really excited to have her come on. And then we just offered our intern, social media intern, Iman Kashif. She was supposed to start in the summer, but obviously now being home, she's able to start with Mommy Well Muslim a little bit earlier and infusing our podcast and our Facebook Live with some young and youthful energy. And we'll be coming at you starting tomorrow, right? Tuesday, like Teen Talks
Yay.
Tuesday,
Tuesday.
and kind of giving
Yeah.
moms an insight as to what our kids are actually going through out of the mouth of themselves, like out of the mouth of babes, essentially. So we are super excited about having that be on our show, and as another offering for our moms, kind of getting an insight into what the teenagers are actually physically experiencing, and just kind of be in touch with what they're going through. So I'm really excited, yay, to have them on.
Yay. For the youthful voices, yes. I think that's really important so that,
Yes.
when we're learning all these new tips and techniques, that they're actually going to be applicable to the generation that exists right now, I think is really important. So I'm really glad we're doing that. And we have some
Exactly.
young voices coming on to balance us out and just expand our points of view. So I really love it.
So we this episode today was supposed to be how to be fully schooled, right, during Ramadan. And the coronavirus has essentially taken on a life of its own, and we can't actually ignore it. So what we're going to do is incorporate it into what we were already going to do. And we're going to be talking today about being homemade Ramadan, meaning all of us are at home, how to make it special, um, and what we're going to do in kind of changing the narrative of what Ramadan is going to look like for all of us. Because guess what? I think we're at 3 weeks and counting from today, right?
Well, my family started 4 weeks ago. So we've officially done it
Oh,
a
you
month
did?
on Wednesday. We started
Oh my
early
gosh. No, we
because we
haven't
had
even
spring break,
started. We've
right? And
just
we weren't
been.
going anywhere.
That's
Yeah.
right. So that's
hmm
where we're going to go. And what I wanted to do is take a moment, because part of what we wanted to do is bring some amazing mamas on the show that, can have different types of points of view, because point of view is our continuous theme at Momming Well Muslim, and alternating and changing and adjusting what we might be thinking. So I wanted to introduce our guest today. Yay. Priscilla Martinez. She is an interfaith leader and a library advocate here in the DMV area in my community. And, that's kind of where we entertain our children, but that's not going to really be an option this Ramadan. Priscilla also is a mama of six. I think the ages are like 13 to 23. So she's a well established expert mom. And we are so thankful she decided to join us today to kind of put in perspective what we're going to do this Ramadan stuck at home. Thank you so much for coming on, Priscilla.
Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum,
Welcome to the
everyone. Thanks
show.
for having me. Thank you. It's exciting. I've been following y'all for what? It's been over a year now, I think.
It's been
Yeah.
over a
I
year,
mean, that was
alhamdulillah.
kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
It's been over, yeah, alhamdulillah. But no, I was just saying, like, you're
Yeah,
kind of like my
mashallah.
go-to mom when I need some advice, or like I'm like, oh, would Priscilla do it? So you kind
Oh
of,
gosh.
like, I've been following
But
you
no
as
pressure,
well.
right?
And no pressure, no pressure. Could you kind of tell our audience, like, your ages of kids, like what you're doing right now, and how you're coping with this coronavirus?
Yeah, sure. So, assalamualaikum, everybody. Thank you, Zeba and Ozma, for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to share with others. So, yes, my kiddos were, well, so they're currently 12 through 22, but we haven't had this year's birthdays yet. So if you want to go by the year 2020, then Zeba, you were right. Yes, 13 through 23. And yes, we have six girls are bookends and four boys in between. And we we are part of the DMV area, but we kind of live out in a rural area. We've been out here for a little over a decade. My husband and I moved out here because we wanted a little more land um, to have a mini farm, not like a full-fledged production farm, but just a mini farm. And then we found a really small town with less than 1,000 population, which really appealed to me because I'm a small town girl. I'm from a really tiny town in Southwest Texas for 4 or 5 generations, where, if I walk down the street and I can just tell anyone like my grandfather's name, and they can give me like my whole family tree with like several branches and generations. And so I've just always loved that kind of to be, old school, that Cheers kind of feeling. Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. And no, I'm not going to sing it because y'all don't want your ears to hurt. But so yeah, so so we moved out here a while back, and we've actually always homeschooled, specifically unschooled our children. So yeah, so some of what we kind of already do as a family is, thankfully, alhamdulillah, in line with, or I guess I should say, the stay at home and social distancing has impacted us, but not as much, for sure, as children who are used to going to school, 5 days a week, or if you're part-time, 3 days a week, and so on, depending on the school district and the grade level. So yeah, so we're looking forward to, although during Ramadan, actually, regardless of schooling, as you all know, we all tend to be more outward and more social, and going to, the mosque more, and so on. So there will be some adjustments in that regard for us. But as far as normal life, our homeschooling has been impacted, unfortunately, but inshallah it's temporary. So we're hanging in like everybody else, alhamdulillah.
And I'm familiar with Priscilla as like the Muslim homeschooling guru in America. So like some of the,
Oh.
stuff that you post about, children and respectful parenting and unschooling, like I've used that in my own journey because I don't know if you know Priscilla, but like I started unschooling my oldest this year. So
I
like
did
you,
not.
the whole school closure. Yeah, yeah. So I've been unschooling my kid, my oldest, who's going to be 12 in May, inshallah. And so the experience has been amazing for me. And with the school closure, it hasn't impacted us as much. However, Ramadan is my children's favorite time of the year. Like the Ramadan Eid wish lists on our refrigerator have changed at least 17 times in the last year, and even this weekend. So, for us, it's a huge cultural shift because, we've had Ramadan at home before when Ramadan used to be in the summer, but this is a whole different circumstance where now we can't even go to the masajid. In all likelihood, they will
Right.
not be opened up no matter what anybody says to fill the churches on Easter. We're not going to be doing that. We're not going to be
Right.
filling the masajid in Ramadan. So, what do we do for those of us who didn't live I see a lot of memes where this quarantine is kind of like an introvert's Eid. But for those of us who are extroverts and very social, and the masjid is very integral to our life, like what do you say or what do you suggest for us to do, and what is some of the fiqh of that, to do these homemade Ramadans?
Well, first of all, I can't speak to fiqh for sure.
Right,
But
right.
in terms of, yeah, I totally get that, because we all, except for my husband, actually, we all are introverts. So that's seven of us living with one very
Hmm.
extroverted social butterfly who totally thrives on being out there. But again, during Ramadan, because of our attachment to the time and the spirituality and the specialness of it and the community, that's where, it kind of doesn't matter if you're introverted or extroverted, right? We are all drawn toward each other during such a special time. So that is going to affect all of us, regardless if we're introverted and extroverted. We have started, using, so we actually had been on Zoom for a while because of the work that we do.
Sure.
And we've started to rely even more on Zoom for, our kiddos started a project called the Apostrophe, where they go live on Zoom 3 times a week. And it's just, it's like I can't figure out a short way to describe it. I just keep saying like a variety show. But it's just a hangout, right? We set it up because we wanted a place for them and anybody who wanted to join them from anywhere, to just be able to connect. Right. It's not about politics. It's not about coronavirus. It's not about, and it's not only for Muslims, and it's just a
Right.
space for teens where they chat about their favorite book series, or, a review. They're actually planning to, go on tonight, I think, is their next broadcast, and they're going to talk about. We just saw Jumanji 2 a couple days ago, so they're going to talk about that,
Hmm.
because you can imagine with 6 of them, they're very diverse opinions once they get to talking, right? About so you can imagine, like, during the entire all those years of the Marvel series, right, all the way up to Endgame,
Yes. Oh
there
my
were
goodness.
after
Yes.
every movie, yeah. So we'd come home
A
from the
breakdown.
movies
That's
from the
awesome.
theater, and yeah, yeah, and everybody would, or imagine, Civil War, Team Iron Man versus Team Captain America. Well, no, Iron Man was right because blah blah blah. No, yeah, Captain America because blah blah blah. And so it's so we thought, well, they can't, obviously we know they're not the only ones with opinions, and why not have a space where it's just a hangout space. So in
Yeah.
previous, I don't want to call them episodes because it's not really like a show. It really is more like a hangout. But previous times they talked about that one nursing home that had put out a call from Texas that wanted folks to write letters into them.
Right.
So they did that and try to publicize, give voice to that. They've talked about book series. They've talked about video games, what's about to come out, just normal teen stuff, where it's not academics. It's not, like I said, it's not politics. It's just the kind of hanging out that they would have would they if they were still able to physically get together, and not necessarily be not having to do social distancing. So we're hoping then that during Ramadan, that will take on two different angles, one of which will be to still provide that kind of connection with each other that is not tied to any other current events except what's going on in their own lives, but not like headlines, is what I mean by current events, I guess. But also provide a way for others, because they also have a lot of friends who are not Muslim, especially because of their
Yes.
interactions and involvement with scouting all their lives. And so just a way then that, these young people can also learn about them. And with Easter coming up, and last month was the Baha'i month of fasting, and then Passover is coming up too. So again, just a
Mhm.
place to be, but in a way that is sincere and authentic, and it's just, what, we're all in this together, kind of egalitarian
Right.
environment. So that's one thing that we're hoping, especially during the days, to because there'll be prayers at night, right, during Ramadan, but especially during the
Yeah.
days, to be able to give them something to do that fulfills, to feed our spirituality doesn't always have to be something that's based on religion
Yes.
or faith, right? Because there are many people who
Hmm.
are spiritual without religion, and even without any particular faith or belief in a higher power, but they still can have a sense of spirituality and reverence for nature and for the interconnectedness of all of us as creation, or as humans. And um, so we're going to rely heavily on, obviously, the mosque, because I'm hearing the same thing, that masajid are not going to be opening up during Ramadan, and I agree with that. Not, again, not from a fiqh perspective. This is an opinion perspective. Um,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
we're going to rely on, our mosque for many years had already been live streaming during Ramadan. So we're going to be relying on that even more
Oh.
heavily this time around. And they've that actually used to almost exclusively, with a few exceptions, that was the only time of the year really for the past, probably since maybe 20, oh gosh, what are we, 2020, maybe around 2015, 2016, I think, is when they started doing that during Ramadan. So
Oh, cool.
and now they've kicked it up to where there's 3 or 4 live programs a day, and they go into, we've got a health, a doctor from the community that is talking about staying healthy during quarantine, and also in light of coronavirus. And we've got another program with our our youth imam. Um, and then we've got our chief imam, who is doing more fiqh. So there's something for everybody there. And so that's going to
Hmm.
become, since they've kicked it up a notch, we will be relying on that too, more so. So that's kind of taken care of. So in terms of faith-based spirituality, but the rest of the spiritual fulfillment during Ramadan, we're going to rely on connecting with others as best we can online, and on encouraging good deeds, right? Which is something that we do as a family normally anyways, but we all know that during Ramadan it's extra special, and there's more, reward, inshallah, for good intentions and good deeds during that time. So that's kind of the three pronged, I guess, package of what we're looking to do. And then academics, um, it's just academics for us has always continued, and we kind of have always gone at our own pace with that, because of the flexibility of
Mhm.
homeschooling and especially unschooling, which you are familiar with, Ozma. But because we actually in the past have always just taken our academics down a notch during Ramadan, and then maybe during the summer
Right.
when quote everybody else is off, right, for the whole month or all 3 months, then that's when we might make up for that time. So the way that I've always explained it to people whenever they've asked is we just always year round kind of go at about
Mhm.
75%. And we know that because it's just year round, they're not used to getting the summer off. We eventually hit everything that they want to hit. So maybe I should say that's kind of a four prong approach to Ramadan. So yeah, so that's
Yeah.
our plan. That's our plan, inshallah. And with all of them being older, or I should say, not little kids anymore, then it's I think a little. I mean, it has its pros and cons in that they all have very more specific needs that, or not more specific. I mean, we all have specific needs, but since they're older, it's easier for them to express them, right? Their own needs and wants.
Yeah.
So that's
Mhm.
helpful. But then also, since they're older, it's not like when they were tiny that they only needed each other for socializing. I'm sorry, my stomach was growling there. Um,
Yes.
so anyways, but I've always
In
been,
preparation for fasting.
I've always been a, right,
It's
exactly,
Monday,
yeah.
she's doing her Sunday
Getting
fast
a
in
little.
Shaban.
um, so yeah, so I've always been a firm believer in, anyone who's familiar with my approach to homeschooling and to parenting and life in general is good enough is good enough. And I know it sounds like
Right.
so like lame and basic, but
No, no.
for someone who is a reformed, hopefully reformed perfectionist, it took a long it was a long journey for me to get to that point, probably at least through my first two or three kids, where I was still, the leaning into my type A tendencies and my perfectionism. And after my third is when I kind of started to relax a lot more. And that's when good enough is good enough became my mantra. And that's how we're planning to approach Ramadan as well. Not that we shouldn't strive to do our best and do as much as we can, but to also be kind and merciful toward ourselves when we're not, which we, inshallah, can rely on Allah's kindness and mercy toward us. So why would that not be an approach that we take toward ourselves? And that's something that we try to um, impart to our children, especially because it's very easy once you become an adult to allow a lot of external pressures to, it's very easy to internalize all these external pressures and then use them for how we judge ourselves, right? Based on those expectations that weren't even innate to us in our lives that we internalized. And so we try to remind them, be kind. The most important person you need to be kind and patient and merciful to is toward yourself. Because if Allah is, why would you not be? Right? So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love that on so many levels. And I think that's exactly what everybody needs to hear during this time. What do you think, Zeba?
No, the reality of the situation is is my mantra as well. I'm like, we all are doing the best that we can, and these are circumstances, right, that are outside of our control. And perhaps this, I view it as, this is God's way or Allah's way of getting us to slow down and become more connected. And this has been a great opportunity for me to gain some more of my own spirituality and because everybody knows usually during springtime we're not as involved in like the scouts and stuff as Priscilla, but all my kids play are pretty avid athletes, and usually our weekends are spent like starting at 7 a.m. going till 10 with nonstop games or tournaments. So this is going to be our first Ramadan where we actually can just be, and I'm actually really looking forward to that because we were normally fitting everything in and squeezing it in, and the fact that we don't have to do that is amazing. And my kids are enjoying, because everything has moved online, is we're literally are like, oh, so Heb Web is on right now, let's click on that and see what he has to say, and Mom Majid is on, let's click on that and what he has to say. Like, it's honestly been such a cool experience for us because when we're normally so busy, we're able to I still feel pretty much connected, the beauty of technology. Um, so honestly, I am really looking forward to this Ramadan. I know you, Uzma, you're more of the going to the mosque. You guys, you eat dinner every single day there, and you also seem to slow down like Priscilla does. Like, how are you feeling about being more homemade during Ramadan right now? Because I know this was a big part of like your socialization was going to
Yeah.
the mosque every single night.
Yeah. And it's not just, I'm more worried about my kids because that's where, we would pull out of all extracurricular activities during Ramadan because I was like, Ummy's in conservation mode. She is not going to drive you to 1,001 different places. So it would kind of force us to slow down during the month, which is kind of a moot point right now. But, you
Yeah, because
know,
you're not going anywhere
also
anyway.
part of my mental Exactly. Part of my mental well-being was during Ramadan, so that I could concentrate in the Masjid al-Taraweeh, I would give them the electronics at night. So here you go, right after Isha, here's your electronics, enjoy yourselves. And they loved it because they would just game with their friends over there. Like they would, now that they're older, they would have to pray their 8 and then they would just sit down and like play or go outside in the parking lot and play with the security guard, like football, like touch football or whatever. Um, so they're not having that interaction. They look forward to it. And I'm more worried about them. Like, how do you recreate that experience for masjid going kids who are used to that? Like, that's been everything they've known since before they even started school. So I'm grieving for that loss, but I'm hoping that maybe our masjid will do like yours, Priscilla, and start live streaming the Taraweeh. Because I know one or two people are still attending each of the 5 prayers, and maybe we will have an imam who can live stream the Taraweeh for us so that we can continue to do it at home. That's kind of what we're going to end up doing. But my husband's like, we will not be, even if some weirdo decides that they're going to go and have iftar at the masjid and provide it for a few people, we're not going to go expose ourselves or potentially expose we have a lot of elder people in our congregation. Excuse me, that sounded awful. Um, who we would put at risk if we were exposed. I'm still working, he's still working. So, we're bringing these germs in. We don't want to infect our masjid. So he's like, we will just have to start having suhoor at home and we will have to start having iftar and dinner at home. And so, Zeba, that makes me grieve on a whole nother level because I hate cooking.
Mhm.
So that's going to be
You know what though?
me
This is a great
listening
opportunity for you to like get your kids involved
to,
in cooking. Like, I am now having my
Yeah.
kids, like my
yes.
daughter just texted me, I'm making lunch for everybody. I'm like, good, because I'm busy right now.
What?
And this is our opportunity to like start encouraging them to do different things. So maybe that's, you guys can work on a menu and start, doing different things. I remember,
Yeah.
rolling samosas with my mom during Ramadan. Like,
Yes, when we were
why not?
younger.
And
Yeah.
do you remember? Yeah, and we're like, "Hey, mom,
I
my,
remember
the
doing
white
those
lady
dang
that made the
things.
best samosas." That was so fun.
Yes,
But
and
like
her
encouraging
kebabs
them to
are
be a
amazing.
little bit more. And her kebabs are really good. Like, my mom is the best desi cook, and she's not desi, so like I miss
She's
her
really good.
food so
Oh.
much. She did send me a whole bunch of Clorox, so if she's watching right now, thanks, mom, for being a hoarder. I
Thanks,
definitely
Darlene
appreciate it because I
Auntie.
was able to clean clean my light switches, and she's probably is watching right now. But yeah, the one thing I wanted to do, and Priscilla touched base about this, is having an act of service. Like, I feel like that is a major component for Ramadan in general for
Of our
us. And
Ramadan.
normally we do the physical things with our children, and we're not going to be able to do that. So, Uzma and Priscilla, do you want to talk to a little bit? Have you thought about like what kind of service projects your kids are going to be doing? It sounds like with apostrophe they're doing that already, like virtually. Is there anything else that you can kind of give advice or some insight, so for other people, our audience watching, that we can have our kids be able to do at home so that we're still participating in acts of service during Ramadan?
Right. Well, my kids, except for one of them, aren't on social media. So most of what they hear about what's going on out there in that regard comes from me. And so I've seen so far, social media does not fail in this department, alhamdulillah. I've seen calls for, which y'all did, I'm sure as well, that I just mentioned, for people to send letters to, what did you call it? It was my care centers. I forgot
The
what
care
you called it.
community,
Community
care
care?
community,
Yes, the
care
care communities.
communities.
Yeah. Um, okay, care communities, and for first responders and for hospitals. So anybody out there who is an essential worker can always use that kind of a pick me up, a thank you in the form of a letter, or a video message, an email. So that's one thing that is, it's still going to be going on a month from now, right, when we're into Ramadan. So that need isn't going to go away. And then I'm sure you all saw also the calls for folks to sew masks. I know that in
Mhm.
our county, it's my understanding that all of the healthcare workers are not taking those because they don't fit,
Yeah.
the requirements of being N95 and so on. But other essential workers are very enthusiastically hoping for those and putting out calls for those. So people that are out there working in grocery stores and gas stations and, pet feed and supplies and so on, are the ones, because we don't want them, right, to be using the N95s that we need in a healthcare setting, right? But they still want some protection. So I've seen that those calls going out as well. And then yesterday I saw something that was really interesting that I know that I wouldn't have ever thought of, but Osma, I'm sure you would have, which is there was a call out. I think it was a nurse in Texas, if I remember correctly. I'm old, so brain fart. Um, but it was she was saying, she has these cloth masks, and thank you, and she appreciates that people have been sending them in, but apparently the elastics are wearing on people's ears, on the backs of them. And so now they're asking for people to either sew headbands or buy headbands, but either way, get headbands and sew buttons on either side, so then people can wear a headband
Oh,
and then get their face mask and put the elastics around the buttons, because they're just,
so it's not
ears are
hurting their
getting chafed,
ears.
and right, exactly. So this
Yeah.
is the kind of thing, not to say that there's anything to like about the situation that we all find ourselves in, but a couple weeks ago I was thinking, this obviously we can always use reminders, right, in terms of how we're all in this together, right? And there's so many things that we go through, either as a country or as a world, or sometimes even just when there's something like a school shooting. There's things that happen in our lives that remind us, and remind communities that are going through this together, that it's like the great equalizer, right? Whatever trauma or
Mhm.
event it is that a community or a group of people is going through, right now it's the whole world, right? And so, not to again, not to say that there's anything good about it, but a reminder that we're all the same, and that the only
Yes.
way through this current challenge is unity, is helpful. But then that's kind of on a macro level. On a micro level, I was thinking a couple weeks ago about how, in all of this connecting that we've been doing and talking about this one issue, it's helped us to literally, in a very granular, raw way, see how it is that something that is affecting me in XYZ ways, uh, is affecting someone else. Because there's several times a day I'll see something either on the news, or um, you know, a, a news app, or or on social media, and I'll be like with the elastics on the ears, I'll be like, I never would have thought of that, right? And
Mm.
so it's not just a reminder of what it is I didn't think of, but a reminder that my experience is not everyone else's, and that everyone else's is as valid as mine. And so it served for me as a reminder that um, it's it everything out there, not just on a macro level, it affects all of us, but that on a micro level, I really truly don't know someone else's experiences, and it's a reminder that just as much as I expect and hope that others care about my experiences and my voice and how something affects me, I have that equal, if not more, obligation to others and see things from their perspective and appreciate that reminder that I never would have thought of that, but thank you. You know, I learned something and I feel for you now. And if I can, I'm going to do something to help. And if not, I'll at least elevate your voice to the extent that I can. And, you know, just gratitude for, like I said, on a macro level, but also on a micro level, that we really are in this all together. And so I don't remember how we got to talking about this. I just kind of
Well, I
segued,
feel
That's
like
the
meandered.
everything that
beauty.
you're saying
Yeah,
I feel like what you're saying, Priscilla, is, right now, this coronavirus experience is for everybody a reflection of, what we compact into that 30 days of Ramadan. Like thinking about humanity, empathizing with humanity who doesn't have the advantages of a suhoor and iftar, the advantages of clean water and shelter, and a masjid
Right,
to go to, or a community to fall back
right,
on. So, that I feel like everybody in the world right now is having that Ramadan experience that we all look forward to. And so, on
right,
that note, I think we do have a distinct advantage of having a homemade Ramadan where we're going to be here because we already know how to do it. We just have to take it from the public space that we're used to into that private space. And for those who are uh, introvert experts like yourself, like how to do this the best. The rest of us just need to, turn on that switch in our heads that, you know, it's maybe an inconvenience or it's something different. It's not a catastrophe. For some people, this whole
right,
pandemic
right,
is catastrophic economically, mentally, emotionally. But for a lot of us, it's okay. We just have to shift our mindset really and shift our thinking and not focus on all the things
right,
that we have lost. But like Zeba said, think of all that we have gained in connecting even closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and realizing that, I feel like Surat al-Alaq is just over and over in my head. Like we are such insignificant clots, right? We come from such insignificant things. And this very tiny microscopic thing, like electron microscopic
mhm,
thing, is, brought the world
right,
to its knees. So,
wreaking havoc.
and
right,
Allah is so
Yeah,
much
wreaking
grander than
havoc
that.
right now, those
right.
crazy
Yeah,
viruses.
Right. And I was thinking
exactly.
about that too,
So
because
I
not
feel
only is
like,
it
yeah,
microscopic, but how is it that we know about it? How is it that we can even see it? How is it that we have images literally of it? Because we are so advanced. We are so, have reached such pinnacles of technology and advancement and scientific knowledge and so on, and yet, so it's not that it's just bringing us to our knees, our bringing us to our knees, but it's bringing us to our knees at what in the history of human civilization is the the pinnacle, the best of what we have accomplished ever, like as humans. And so here we are at our, at the summit, right, looking out on the accomplishments of the past, 1,000 years, and it's like, it's something that has taken our opened opened our minds to, and just I'm struggling for the words,
the weaknesses that lie
opened,
within.
yeah, like really laid it out
Yeah,
and opened like everything that we laid before us, yes, you are all this, and yet, so it's that reminder, right, that
you're
you were
still
talking
lacking
about,
here.
Uzma, that
Yeah.
it's just all of that is so irrelevant because look, you know
Uh-huh.
like, I don't know,
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to think,
We
I'm
don't even have
struggling
masks for
because
our healthcare
there's got to be
workers.
some slang, yeah, that, right, right. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
and in ways that we would never have thought of, right? No matter how prepared, right? There's so many ways that we know now we have been grossly unprepared. Um, but even so, right? Is it possible to really be fully prepared, even if we had been, and we could have been in so many ways? There's no denying that. Um, but there's still other ways that we know now we wouldn't have thought of, right? And that kind of goes to the macro level of it, because what if we did have millions and millions of N95 masks available for all of our healthcare workers? That doesn't change the fact that, when they're pulling 2 3 shifts back to back and constantly changing, right, masks, and their ears still would have been wearing away, right, is the point. So there's just left and right, there's still just these reminders that, sure, you would have thought you had this, but you don't really got this. And so
Hmm.
anyways, but I know
Yeah.
there's some young people's phrasing in there that probably applies, but I'm not that young to think of it.
Yeah.
So
Well,
when
we're
you
in the
watch our
same boat
Teen
as you because
Talks
I
on
just learned what the word bet
Tuesdays,
means.
yeah, bet. I was gonna say, like, maybe our Teen Talks on Tuesdays will actually give us a little bit of an insight into their vernacular. And we'd love to have your kids on the show
Yeah.
too. So I'll reach out to you offline. But the one thing that like to pull it back to Ramadan, like I think I love what Priscilla and your Uzma are saying is like you're thinking about this as a micro level. And yeah, usually that's the world around you. But for this particular moment in time, like part of our duty is to remain at home and do what we need to do. That doesn't mean we have to stop the quest for spirituality or that connection through God during this blessed month. It just means that we're doing it more on the micro level within our families. And can you imagine with the
Right.
technology we have now with Zoom, with this, like the fact that we're on 3 different time zones and we can still make this happen? What a blessing to be alive and that this happened during this period in time. So there are still ways for us to connect with
Yeah.
one another. Ozma, if you guys don't live stream, like, Adams is going to be live streaming, just join us, like that's my point. My point is like
Yeah,
you can
that's what we're gonna
literally
do.
do that
But
with
there's that 3-hour
technology,
time difference, right?
and
So we'll have to turn on the
that's
recording for
right. You
Adams.
guys, oh, you'll turn on the recording. But that's my point. My
Yeah.
point is like, we're just
Yeah, I'll just
we're
turn on
at
the
a
recording.
place in the world. It could be work. Just go onto recordings and join us, and that's the beauty. I feel like, even though we're in our respective homes, I think we're now craving that connectivity, and we're reaching out to that. And like I did see a meme which I thought, totally, all my friends who know me, like I'm really missing the fact that I can kind of like cancel my plans with friends, because I end up always canceling because I'm just like that, but I still miss having the opportunity to make and cancel plans. But if this means, I'm helping
Should be
other
my
people
choice.
by like, exactly. It should be my choice, for God's sakes. If it means like, I'm watching another Netflix show where I'm putting in an audiobook, or I'm playing outside with my kids, which I haven't done in a long time, to be honest with you, like actually interacting with them, because I'm always so busy doing something else. If I have a little time, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can play that extra baseball game. What the heck? Where am I going right now? So, we can choose
Right.
to look at it in a negative way, or we can say, you know what, this is what I need to do to heal the earth, because I do think the earth is healing. I don't see as many
Right.
cars out there. And maybe, for me, it's there's a bigger plan, and recognizing that I'm insignificant in the bigger plan, but I'll do what I need to do, I think has been
Mhm.
really helpful. And I'll definitely carry that on during Ramadan.
Right. And those things,
And I
whether
think
it's
like
playing basketball with your whether it's playing basketball
go
with your
ahead,
kids,
Priscilla.
or Ozma, if you decide to brave it and start cooking with your kids, um, those things are, again, not to get into thick, but one ayah that's always personally spoken to me and my husband is inamal usri yusra, to the extent that we actually named our youngest actually after that ayah. Her name is Yusra. And so that those things are the ones that, especially during Ramadan, are the things we're going to have to rely on to provide us that relief. It's going to have to come from
Yeah.
within, and that needs to be okay. And I think that perhaps that's one of the, again, not to say that there's any good, but looking for the relief, looking for blessings and signs, right? And those who reflect, signs for those who reflect. the fact that it's as harried and hurried, no, hurried, or maybe it's both, as this world has become, we have an opportunity to draw inward, right? And not be looking to social media for affirmation, not be looking to, who notices that we show up 5 times a day to the mosque to pray, right? And not be noticing who wears hijab or not. I mean, regardless, just all of these external ways that as humans we assess each other or judge each other. We're not interacting with each other enough to have those what we know are outward signs of, or what people take to be outward signs of piety or outward signs of religiosity. There's no one to quote unquote show off to, right? And so to be able to really reflect on purifying the inside, and not just that, but realizing that that's really where what's more important, and not relying for those affirmations and pats on the back and good jobs and mashallahs from everyone else, right? And
Right.
connecting with Allah and knowing that that's where we get our affirmation and our blessings and our pat on the
Right.
back and inshallah reward from, right? So that's why also in terms of the masajid, they're not unimportant. I would be the first one to say that they are, especially the kind of community that we have been blessed to help build over the past 25 years. It is not just a place to pray. Literally, we just finished, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, excuse me, the actual musalla, because for almost 30 years before that, um, Adam Center was everything else. It was a gym that I used to call a cafegimatorium, but it was technically called a main hall. But it was a gym, it was a community center, it was a place for scouts and for the Hafiz program and for youth group meetings and just for everything else. But we would use the gym for Juma. The staff would roll out carpets every Friday and roll them back up every Friday. And then there was a smaller prayer area that was used for the 5 daily prayers, because not everyone, not as many people come as for Juma. And so literally Adam Center has been everything else except that sanctuary, or except a prayer sanctuary, until a few years ago. And so the role of a mosque, especially like that, is definitely going to be missed during Ramadan. But by the same token, I don't think that there's anything wrong with a reminder for us, and especially for the generation that comes after us, that um, our faith and our belief in our spirituality should still not be tied to a building, right? Because
Yeah. It's
it's
supposed
Right,
to
how
be
100%.
often do
introspective
we
on some
go?
level.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And
It's
so,
it's
and
an
how often, even if
introspective
you go five
thing,
times a
right?
day, right, right. And even if you go 5 times a day and you go every Juma and you go for every night during Taraweeh, you still spend more time in your life away, not there, right? And not at the mosque. So how are you living your life the whole rest of the time? Right. So now the whole rest of the time has become the whole time. And
Right.
so that someday then when we do return to the mosques, inshallah, we are more firmly rooted in ourselves, just as equally as we are rooted in our masajid, inshallah.
Inshallah. And we'll have
Well,
so
I
much
mean,
more
not that I'm
appreciation
trying,
for the space
inshallah.
once we're able to return to it.
Exactly. So
Right.
the one thing I do want to end on, because I'm not a crafty person, is what can I do? I'm going to ask this for both of you to kind of make it seem like a festive place, because right now I'm like, I got some glue sticks and I got glitter. And now what am I supposed to do with this? Because I'm not crafty and we can't go to Michael's. Everything is closed. So do you guys have any suggestions as like what is the one thing that you do that you bring out during Ramadan to kind of like, you know, calls that month in?
Priscilla, do you wanna
So
answer
like
that
in the
first?
beginning, you mean?
Yeah, like, because right now,
Like,
like,
what ho what
when you were saying about, What is it? What is that one special thing that we're gonna do to be like, okay, this is gonna differentiate from my normal everyday quarantine to now my spiritual Ramadan quarantine? Like, what is it gonna make it exciting and festive for the kids? Because I need some desperate ideas right now, ladies.
Right, right. So fancy quarantine ideas versus everyday quarantine ideas. Got
Yes,
it.
I need some fancy.
um,
Exactly, exactly.
fancy. Um, so Zeba, as you and I had talked about, since we've got older kids, mine were tiny and younger when before, right, all of today's amazingly talented, mashallah, Muslim crafters and artists were they existed, but before they were able to really put their products and offerings out there. And so the first thing I would say is, yes, there are chain stores, and I won't mention names, out there who have Ramadan decorations and Eid decorations and plates and banners and streamers and lions and tigers and bears, oh my. And on some level, it is good that to have that visibility on a national level in retail like that. And I will not disparage that because that is important, right? But I don't think it's zero sum. I think it's important and good and helpful to support that because it's meaningful. But let's also not forget our small Muslim owned businesses, especially those who put their time and money and effort and love into the crafts that they produce and the products and so on. And so Instagram is a great place to look for those ideas. And there are a lot of folks right now that I see selling. I actually just ordered some yesterday. Kits where you can make your own. They send you the paintbrushes and the paints and in this case, they're like wooden cutouts that my kids are going to paint themselves that we'll put up because that's about as crafty as I can get. I wouldn't be able to create the wooden cutouts.
Yes,
But there are
exactly.
there are folks, you can just buy the finished products also as well. And those things come in the mail, and then just quarantine them or sanitize them the way that you normally would because they're going to pass several hands anyways. And then other than that, I think it's also important to try to keep things as normal as possible and as routine as possible. So one of the things, since there's 6 of them, that we've always done with our kids when they were tiny, and they already did it last week so they can start brainstorming, is we just do like a Secret Santa type thing where they draw each other's, they put all their names in a bowl and they draw names, and and they get each other Eid gifts. And then on Eid, they wrap them and then we put them out, and everyone opens one, and then they try to guess who it's for and also
Who
guess
gave it
who
to
it's
them? That's a
from.
good idea.
So right, yeah, so that's something that we've just always felt would be helpful to just um e- endear them to each other, because that's something that's always been important to us as parents, my husband and I, to do what we can to ensure, any of us can leave this earth at any time whenever Allah decides. And someday, as the 6 of them as children will not have us, their parents, right? But they, inshallah, will still have each other. And so one of the driving forces behind our parenting has always been to try to foster and nurture the relationships they have with each other. And so this is one of the things that we have always done every Eid regardless. And so things like that are important to each family should still be kept, right? So if you want to take your Ramadan up a notch, then go for it. But definitely don't devalue or consider insignificant the small normal routine things, because already with not being able to go to masajid and stuff, there are routine things that are being taken away from us. So keep the normal stuff that you do and then just add to them. But beyond that, I don't have anything crafty to add, so I'm punting over to Osman.
Okay. But like,
No, we
Uzma
just
always
kind
gets
of
like
bring
the
in
Ramadan pajamas. Are you gonna do that? Are you gonna do that this year with the Ramadan pajamas? Considering
Oh,
mine never come out of
cute.
their pajamas, they would be wearing those all year, all month
the
long.
problem
For
with
goodness
Ramadan
sakes.
pajamas is that now that my kids are 12 years old, but are built like 14 and 13-year-olds. They don't come in those sizes, so now I have to
It's
pay
not a
the
cute
adult
look.
prices.
I know it.
Um, get the adult no, they're like, "Ummi, I'm not wearing this to the masjid, like, I can't bend over for ruku."
I
So I have to get them adult, ones. So
know.
yeah, that is a good reminder that I need to order those and ring in Ramadan with that, but typically I
Order
have a
those,
whole
because now
box of
you can be in
Ramadan
your
decor,
pajamas
and that's
all
what I put
month.
up. Yeah, but, I'm not a big proponent of staying in your pajamas all day, like, I make them get dressed before they
I
come
know.
downstairs,
She's
so
like, "Girl,
but at night,
I put pants on today for the
put
record.
on your pants.
You
Are
should
you
be."
wearing
I
pants?
put on my pants today. I am wearing
Oh,
pants
I'm so
today.
proud of you.
Yay!
Wait, are they yoga pants,
Yes.
though? No, then they
They're
don't
not
count, you have
yoga
to put on proper
pants.
pants.
I'm wearing yoga pants.
They're slacks,
Yeah.
they're
Sorry.
slacks. So you're like, Uzma makes fun of me. She goes, "You
Y'all
put
gotta
your
get
clothes
dressed,
on.
man.
What are
It's
you
good for
doing?"
morale. It's good for morale. Yeah. I mean, at the very
No,
No,
least,
but
we
it'll
live
that's
in
keep
our
so
you
fun.
keep
So,
pajamas.
up your jeans game.
I
That's so funny. Yeah,
girl, I'm
so
not
this
putting
year,
jeans on
because
if
we
I'm
have this
watching
renovation
Netflix.
happening, I, am probably not gonna bring the Ramadan decor out because it was packed away last year, and am just I think we should make a collective dua that, "Ya Allah, please let us move into our house before Ramadan, Allahumma ameen." I don't know if it's gonna happen, because then I can
I
put those
mean,
decorations up over there. Who knows? At this point, I'm just happy to have a home that I can live in. And,
Yes.
if I
alhamdulillah.
have to, if that renovation is delayed even further, then I'm just going to put up the dang Ramadan decor that I already have, that I purchased overseas. And some of it my kids have made when they were younger. So if anybody wants to
Aw.
invest in easy things that you can potentially buy at the grocery store, is popsicle sticks and paper plates. And you already have the glitter
Yeah.
and the
That's
glue,
exactly right.
Zeba, so that's perfect. You just need those 4 items,
Yes,
and the
I
kids can
do.
just go to town making crafts every single day. And what you talked about service, touching on that, there's always one act of service or two sometimes, depending on what the movements are. We incorporate that into a craft where it's kind of like, here's a clothespin with a good deed on it, or with the project on it for you to do. That has traditionally been the only thing that we can carry out throughout the entire month. I have done the advent calendars because they're really beautiful and very ambitious, and those have been a bust year after year after year in my house. So we're just not
Oh,
doing
Yeah,
them
I
again.
no.
after the first 3 days,
Um,
we stopped
yeah,
doing them. I'm like, "I am hangry during Ramadan." I'm just gonna be honest. Everybody
exercise and
knows my
futility.
opinion on
Yeah.
this. Everybody knows, and I'm just like, "Yeah, I'm not doing anything extra, okay? So my poor kids will have to figure
Mm-mm.
this out." But, when you were talking about acts
Yep.
of service, the one thing I did wanna say is, looking into your local community, and there are so many Muslim-owned, nonprofits, whether it's your masjid or local. I know here in the DMV area, I have a really good friend, her name is Umbreen Risby. She started the Brigade of Mercy from her kitchen, like, literally kitchen table. We talk about coming to our kitchens
Oh,
tables,
mashallah.
and even during this quarantine, she has been doing so much good for our local, and so we definitely wanna do something with her, perhaps like a blessing box or something, because as we know, like Uzma, I think you touched upon it, there's gonna be a lot of economic, things that come up from the quarantine as a
Mhm.
result of what everybody is going through. So whatever we can do to help as a community, as a Muslim community, as part of our deen, I think is definitely something we're going to focus on in my household as well. But I do see that we have gone so over the hour, and I think it's because, girl, I haven't talked to another live human being other than my husband and my children for this entire week. So it was so nice to be able to talk to you ladies live. And like, Priscilla, do you have anything to
Same.
wrap it? Like, is there, like, could you let us know where we can find your kids' hangout space online? We'll share it on our Facebook page, and we would like to invite them to Teen Talks Tuesdays, because getting a
Oh,
lot
thank
of
you.
variety
Okay.
of teenage input, we would love to have them on the show. So if you wanted to kind of plug where people on our show can find them, we would love to be able to support you all.
Okay, thank you. Jazakallah khair. Sure, inshallah. So, it's called The Apostrophe, and they chose that name after one of our whole family's favorite bands, which is Imagine Dragons. There's a song called Whatever It
Oh,
Takes,
yeah.
where the singer says,
Yeah, we love
I'm an
that.
apostrophe, a symbol to remind you that there's more to see. So that was their intention
Oh,
in
I
choosing the
love
name and
that.
creating this space. It's, you know, it's not everything else that you think of when you think of teens. This is or it's not what you think of when you think of teens. This is everything else, and especially when it comes to Muslim teens, right? Because there's so many narratives out there already surrounding them. So this is everything else that you don't think of. But they
Mhm.
also like um, Pendragon, you know, a book series, that they also go to concerts, that they also debate Team Iron Man or Team Captain America. So that was the intention. It's called The Apostrophe. They are on Facebook, about to be on Instagram, and have a website as well. And then other than that, the only thing I would advise all of us, inshallah, from age 0 to 100 is now, but especially during Ramadan, is just to maintain our flexibility as parents or as
Mhm.
children, because especially when it comes to parenting, you know, there's the old mantra, the days are long but the years are short. And so it's just to be a reminder that, right, in the thick of it, it's going to feel XYZ, but in the grand scheme of things, inshallah, we'll be all right.
Inshallah. It definitely is a gift of time.
Absolutely.
That's how
Amen.
I'm choosing that's I'm
Yeah.
choosing to think about this. This is a gift of time with my kids that I wouldn't otherwise have. But Uzma, will you please keep us updated on your corona cough, because I'm definitely worried about all of your sniffling and your allergies. I'm like, please let her
Yeah.
be
Joe had to turn
safe.
my microphone off because he's like,
Um
"You sound bad."
He was like, "I had to turn your microphone off. You are sniffling up a storm." But, like,
Sorry,
what any
guys.
final
I'm
thoughts, Uzma?
self-quarantining, so don't worry. No, well, I would like to put a call out to moms to please have your kids submit their audio clips of what they love about Ramadan. They can do it if you are okay with them stating their name and their age. Have them do that. If not, it can be totally anonymous, 10 to 30 seconds of what they love about Ramadan, so that we put together a montage and play during every episode during the month of Ramadan. So we look really forward to hearing all the cute
And
kids'
where
voices, and we
and
don't
where are
have
we
to
submitting it?
go
We're
ahead.
submitting it on our website, correct? We're submitting it on our
Y
website,
well,
on the contact us page?
you can send the audios via email, via Facebook, on our Instagram. It's very easy. You just hit your record button and you can leave a voice memo that way, or you can voice memo on your phone and then submit that file if you want to us. DM, PM, email at mommyone@gmail.com. And our amazing editor will put those together and we'll play those montages maybe at the beginning of each
Mhm.
episode so that we can hear the little babies' voices because, you know, again, we're just going to try our very best with what Allah has done us right now to make the best of it and make it as fun and festive as we can. And I think kids will get a kick hearing their voices and to try to hear their voices. So please send those in.
Inshallah.
Another show note link will be the ongoing Celebrate the Penny Appeal Launch Good campaign, financial assistance families who are suffering catastrophic financial crisis as a result of the pandemic, and the Pillars Fund financial assistance grants that are being made available to Muslim activists and artists, you know, people who do gigs who cannot currently earn an income. So please do apply for those or send those links on to somebody who you think could use them.
Until next time,
And
everybody,
we look
thank you
forward
so
to an
much,
amazing
Priscilla, for
Ramadan.
being on our show. Inshallah, inshallah.
Thank
Assalamu
y'all.
Thanks,
Assalamu
alaikum.
alaikum.
Priscilla. Assalamu